17 minutes past 8, it is OTB AM, and we're delighted to be with you on this Friday morning. I'd say most people have probably clocked off at this stage for the festivities.
Everyone's brain.
The holidays.
Anyway. Yeah, I think it's...
Call them that?
Mentally. The holidays, yeah, of course. I think everyone, from about a week ago maybe, had mentally clocked
It's officially
off.
like a non-work day though, if I'm right.
Today is.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
What are we doing here?
Should we just go?
So what are we doing here? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Shane's top 5 snooker moments of the year.
Yeah. So there's been plenty that's happened, Adrian. I know you've been keeping a keen eye on it. I know for sure Ronan O'Gara has. Yeah. Been keeping a keen eye on action. It's been a great year for snooker. So I just wanted to pick kind of 5 of the moments that really stood out to me. The first one was Ronnie O'Sullivan. I mean, it's a nice segue from the chat we just had with Ronan. That hug that you see on the screen with himself and Joe Trump lasted an uncomfortable amount of time. This was after Ronnie equalled Stephen Hendry's. And look at the emotion on his face. He's bawling, crying. And that's an emotion you don't see from Ronnie too often with his 2 kids. After creating history, he like a 7th world title. If there was any discussion as to who is the greatest of all time, he's ahead of Stephen Hendry in most of the other records in terms of centuries and 147s, ranking titles. He's now level with him in World Championships. So I think the discussion, the argument as to who the greatest of all time is, finished there. So he equalled Steve Davis's record of 30 Crucible appearances, a 20th quarter-final, a record 13th semi-final earlier this year, and then beating Joe Trump comfortably as well, 18-13 in the final at the Crucible in Sheffield, a 39th ranking title and a 21st Triple Crown title. So a Triple Crown is a World Championship, a UK Championship or a Masters. And the famous Ray Reardon beating a record of his. So Ronnie was 46 years and 148 days, so the oldest world champion in the sport's history, surpassing Ray Reardon's record from 1978.
He's like Jimmy White and Stephen Hendry rolled into one, isn't he?
He is.
Like, you get the entertainment and the success. He's like the ideal person that you want.
Exactly, because Jimmy White famously, of course, losing 6 world finals and never becoming a world champion. But that emotion, that's a side we never really saw from Ronnie O'Sullivan. There was a Netflix crew, there's certainly a camera crew following it.
Oh, that's around. Right, yeah. So was that never came to
No, there has been a Eurosport documentary that was brilliant, where he sat down.
What's the story with that? Is it just sitting in the...
It's sitting in the ether. I don't know if there's a release date or what the plan is for it, but I look forward to seeing it when it's eventually released. I think he's probably the most talented sports person I've ever seen in my lifetime. Like supremely, the fact that you can play with both hands so comfortably and switch back and forth. He takes the game not seriously at times, and then he takes it very seriously. But for me,
how is he viewed by his fellow pros? I often wonder.
I think it comes and goes in waves. Some of them think he's disrespectful, but they should all be very thankful to Ronnie O'Sullivan, because the interest levels he brings to the game, the extra money he brings into the game, and interest from outside. Is he bigger than the sport? Probably. Most people on the street would probably know of Ronnie O'Sullivan, whereas try and name 3 other snooker players and they'll struggle. It's not like the heyday of the 80s where you had 18.5 million people watching that black ball final between Davis and Taylor. I mean, don't know if those days will ever return, because there's a number of reasons for that. Like, snooker halls in Dublin and other cities across Ireland aren't as common as they were, because the space it takes to have, say, 6 to 8 snooker tables.
Do you play?
Look, I play, but I'm terrible.
How many 147s have you had?
Jesus! Just stop. How many 14 breaks have I had? Is a better question.
Is this a list? Are you giving us a reverse list here, or is this just random?
It's just random.
That's 5, is it?
Just random. So there's no order to this. But it was probably my favourite moment of the year, I have to say. Jimmy White. So Jimmy White had a bit of a angry discussion with the referee earlier this year. So he was given a verbal warning. This was during the Northern Ireland Open up in Belfast. The Welsh referee Ben Williams. Basically, he was playing Luca Brissell. It was during the 4th frame of the match. White nominated the brown ball. So sometimes when there's 2 balls kind of relatively close together, the player, when they're getting down, will just say out loud which ball they're intending to hit, even though Jimmy White is so good that the referee can just assume that he's going to hit the ball he's aiming for. But just out of courtesy, he said brown ball, and then Williams repeated back as the referee does. Blue ball. Jimmy angrily turns around and said, I said brown. But it was what happened next that kind of pissed off Jimmy White. So the referee starts laughing at his own mistake, and it was quite a tense moment in the match. When I first saw this, I thought Jimmy was out of line. I was thinking, he said, "What are you laughing at?" And it felt a bit stern and tense from Jimmy. But then if you watch it back, it's a very tense moment in the match. The referee's laughing. The referee should just say apologies, Jimmy.
I think it was. I have watched. It's like a nervous laughter.
It is a nervous laughter.
He's not laughing at him. He's like, oh crap. Okay. I did think that Jimmy White's reaction was totally uncalled for.
Yeah, I mean,
There's no need to be an asshole about it.
No, I think the referee then maybe unnecessarily gave Jimmy a bit of a warning. He said Jimmy held up his finger.
Yeah, but he was basically verbally abusing him.
I don't know if that's a bit of a stretch. I think Jimmy
he was given it the big one.
I think it's a moment of concentration of and there's a lot of money on the line as well for Jimmy. Like, I think the referee sometimes needs to be aware of the situation they're in, and
he could have just said, "Here, actually, I called Brown. I don't appreciate you laughing about it." And it's not the way he went about it.
Yeah, I think the referee was embarrassed, and that's why maybe he handed out the warning. I think
it was a nervous. I think it was a nervous laughter to begin with, but I think after that he went back into serious mode and was like, "You can't speak to me like that."
Yeah.
And I think that's fair enough. Yeah. The referee has got to be, particularly in a sport like that, like in any sport.
There was the quote from Ronnie O'Sullivan was on Eurosport that day. He is very good friends with Jimmy White, but he said about it, I can see why Jimmy hasn't seen the funny side of it. He's having a hard time out there. He's not playing well. Jimmy has walked around here, so it might look like he's looking at the blue. The referee has jumped the gun. And so he says the referee starts laughing. Jimmy goes like that with his hand, and he's done nothing with his hand apart from to say, "What's going on? I don't need this." He's warned him, and you just think it's uncalled for, really. So that was Ronnie's take, but it was just one of those moments that stood out, and everyone was like, "Oh, Jesus." Snooker can get tetchy. I wanted to use this as an excuse.
Snooker can get
it can get tetchy.
Let
me tell you, Adrian.
Right. What else we got?
There's an excuse to play this video. So we were talking about Steve Davis in the 80s and Ronnie O'Sullivan and the heroes. This is a great clip, and it's Christmas time. I just wanted to play this again. It's my chat with Ronnie and Jimmy White in Drogheda. They were over for an exhibition. There's one little F-bomb in here, so if there's any sensitive ears, maybe cover them just for the next 30 seconds or so. But it's two lads talking about Steve Davis in the 80s. What sort of character he was. He was boring, but set the way and kind of laid the foundations for both of them, I guess. Have a listen. But the best quote, you said of Steve Davis: Steve would happily sit in his room and play chess or a board game, whereas I'd be out somewhere causing murder. I like to dabble, he liked to scrabble.
Yeah.
Sure. I love that quote.
Yeah. But honestly, he was so...
Ronnie says boring.
He was like, he was unbelievable, switched on. Everything he'd done, it was all like, even checking in a hotel, it was all pre-arranged. Everything was like just mad with him. He just used to think, for fuck's sake,
this is a brilliant one. I don't know if you might have read it. First time when I was 17, had to go on tour with Davis to Thailand. So I get picked up. I'm going to try and cut it as short as I can. Go to Steve Davis' house, he gets in the car, he goes, "Hello," alright, gets his computer out, don't speak to me towards me, get to the airport, we check in, still doesn't talk to me, gets to the lounge, gets his laptop out, still doesn't talk to me, get on the plane, 13 hours to Thailand, gets on his computer, like that for 10 hours, get off the plane, in the cab, back on his laptop, get to the hotel in Thailand, check in, still hasn't said nothing to me, get to the hotel room, he goes up my logo, he goes, "Right, see you later." That was 20 hours. I said he must be so comfortable in his own skin, he doesn't feel the need to actually make small conversation. And since that day, I've loved him ever more. He total blanked me for 20 hours. You know, a young 17-year-old in awe of the nugget, and he's gone, "Have some of that." That was one of the best lessons I've ever had. So I want to thank you, the nugget, for teaching me how to be comfortable in your own skin.
There was a lot of library.
What's it like to be sat there with like the greatest snooker player of all time with his arm resting on your shoulder?
Well, you can imagine I'm freaking out inside, obviously.
Yeah.
And then just have Jimmy White as well.
You're like, I'm not even hearing what's going on around anymore. I just know Ronnie is leaning on me, and this is cool.
It was the greatest day ever. And just to be sitting between probably my two favourite players of all time. The full video's on YouTube as well. If you search Jimmy White, Ronnie O'Sullivan.
Were they like, there's a round table over here, and we could all sit down, and you're like, no.
Let's sit right here. Yeah. There was a few people behind, kind of maybe 5 or 6 people sitting watching as well. It was like a little audience there. I think they were playing up to the audience a little bit as well. That mug he held up at the end, little green mug that said numpties on it,
right,
which was his way of describing the lower down players on the tour that aren't as good as him. Because there's some events where there's maybe 16 players or 32. There's others where there's 128. And he called some of the lower down players numpties, which he's got in trouble for in the past. But yeah, that was my second moment.
It's all good. What else have we got?
A bit of a downbeat moment in the last couple of weeks. The Chinese snooker stars being suspended amid a corruption investigation. So Yan Bingtiao being one of these players, joining a growing list of Chinese players to get suspended by the sports governing body as part of a corruption investigation. So there's accusations of players. So recently 5 other Chinese players suspended by World Snooker Tour followed the suspension of countryman Liang Wenbo on October 27th. This is on allegations of manipulating matches for betting purposes. So, I mean, snooker is one of the most popular sports in China, and there has never been a world champion from China, but I think that day is coming down the tracks sooner rather than later. It was the 7th such suspension against the Chinese player in a matter of weeks on suspicion of manipulating games for the benefit of matches. Doesn't necessarily mean losing matches on purpose. Past cases have involved heavily favoured players accepting money in return for ensuring they lose at least a certain number of frames during a match that they ultimately win against an inferior player. So it could be winning 4-1 as opposed to 4-0. And I've seen some of the videos of matches where this match fixing is alleged to have occurred, and it's marginal. Snooker players are so talented, they can miss a pot by a tiniest of margin and hit the jaws and do it on purpose, because they don't just pot a ball, they pot the ball into the part of the pocket that they want to pot it. So it's all a bit suspicious. And look, these suspensions, at least World Snooker have clamped down fairly quickly on it. But yeah, I put it in one of my top moments, but it's certainly a darker moment for snooker over the last year or so. The fourth moment is it was a good moment for Irish people, because Mark Allen becoming the UK champion, rallying from 6-1 down, there he is on screen, to defeat Ding Junhui 10-7 from 6-1 down to win the UK Championship final in York. As I said, it's one of those majors. Northern Irishman claiming an 8th ranking title, second Triple Crown. He won the 2018 Masters as well, taking the winner's cheque of £250,000, his second ranking title of the season. He also won the Northern Ireland Open this season, Mark Allen. Even his semi-final was brilliant at that tournament. He fought back from 5-3 down to beat Jack Lasowski 6-5 on the final black, an epic semi-final, and then the comeback skills were on show again in that final against Ding. And look, he's had significant weight loss over the last year or so. Mark Allen, it was very apparent if you've seen the old photos of Mark Allen and now. He says, "I did it for my life, not just for snooker." Ronnie O'Sullivan actually helped him a lot. Ronnie's a big fitness freak and into his diet and nutrition as well, and kind of sat down with him. He was 19 stone, Mark Allen, when he competed at the World Championship back in Sheffield in May. But all these lifestyle changes have led to him losing stone upon stone, and it's clearly paying off for him, because he's had personal problems. He's talked about being in bankruptcy and that sort of thing, so he's really come out the other side and playing really good snooker at the moment. So that was another one of my moments of 2022. And the final one that I've picked, Adrian, this morning, is Mark Selby. So he won the English Open there very recently. There he is with his daughter and his wife Vicky. He's had very tough times, Mark Selby, over the last while or so. He opened up in January about his mental health struggles and how he's really had a seriously tough time. And look, tough times don't last, tough people do, and Mark Selby is a tough person. A drinking game during snooker matches where Mark Selby is involved is the word granite. Every time the word granite is used about Mark Selby, take a drink and you'll be fairly well oiled by the end of the match. It was his first title in 20 months. He beat Luca Bracel at the English Open, the only player to lift the Davis Trophy twice now, with a 9-6 win against Luca Bracel. But it was more Selby's the story, because he played brilliantly well. He welled up as he thanked his wife Vicky afterwards. He said, "It's not been easy, probably the biggest challenge of my life. So coming out here and winning a tournament is incredible, really. I've been suffering for a few years silently. Only Vicky and my family really knew, and it's been tough from January trying to get myself back on my feet." And he says there's not enough words he can say about his wife. If it wasn't for her, I definitely wouldn't be stood here today, that's for sure. So Mark Selby, I think is he a 4-time world champion? But an incredible story to come back from the brink and win his first title in 20 months. So definitely one of the stories.
Redemption story.
Exactly.
Before you introduce us to our next guest, and we're shifting from one of your favourite sports to another one, your main snooker hope for 2023?
Oh, Ronnie O'Sullivan to win an 8th.
Okay.
He's not confirmed whether he's going to actually turn up and do it. He says, look,
does he not say that every year?
He does, yeah. It's tiring. It's a 17-day slog, so it's not one of those shorter tournaments. But look, he's clearly in the right mind frame to win it if he wants to. If he wants to show up, and the way he's treating snooker at the minute is he actually prefers doing the punditry work, it seems. Right. But he's enjoying his practice at the moment. I would love to see him do number 8.
You said you were going over for some of it.
Yeah, I think I'll get over. I was over in 2018 and 2019, the years Williams and Trump won. So yeah, definitely going to get back over. COVID kind of played havoc with it. Couldn't get over for a couple of years.
For the final, or what do you think?
I'd love to get over for the final. Whatever the press corps will take me
You've
for.
Gone over and like, I'm covering, I'm working.
Exactly, yeah. Well, you might get a couple of more interviews like that. Cushy chats, fireside chats with Ronnie. I mean, why not? With the arm around.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're my top 5 snooker moments of 2022.